Welcome back to yet another episode of the Book Tribe podcast, where we talk about how authors can write, publish, and market their book in the busy marketplace that is fiction writing. And today I'm joined by Galo Vargas, founder of Inkspired, a storytelling publishing platform. Welcome, Galo.
Thank you, Erika, for having me today. It's a pleasure.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. I've kind of come across Inkspired as, being on social media and in the bookish world. So I'm glad that we can kind of get to talk about it and see how it can help authors today. But before we get into it, we have to ask a bookish question. So I'm going to ask you, Galo, if there was one book that you would recommend to our listeners, what would that be?
My all-time favorite and the one that changed my life, because it's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, Lord of the Rings. It's just like when I discovered it, and I didn't discover the book first, I discovered the movie, but not even the first movie. It was the second movie. A friend just brought me to the movie theater to watch it, and it was like, oh, what I'm doing here, I didn't even watch the first movie. And then what I saw during those next 3 hours just like mind blown me, because I was always into fantasy, into storytelling. So I watched the first movie, and then I had to wait 1 year to get into the third movie. So I said, no way, I'm going to read the books. And oh my God, that really changed, especially because I have so many stories going in my head. Like I was drawing, creating, comics, but I was never into writing. And reading Lord of the Rings got me fascinated with writing and literature. And then I started writing. And here we are with a platform for writers.
Amazing. Yeah, what a journey that is. And as you say, there are some books that kind of just ignite that passion. I'll say for myself, what got me back into reading, it was Twilight. And I know it's not everyone's favorite, but it was because I was looking for another book that was like that I ended up getting back into kind of reading, and it kind of started this whole journey. So yeah, there's always that one book, isn't there? So we've kind of got a little bit of background about yourself, but is there anything else that we should know about you and what has brought you to this point?
Well, I think like ever since I was a kid, as I was saying before, like I love the stories. I just didn't discover that I loved writing and therefore books until very late. It was all about the stories. And, as a kid, you play video games and you love the video game, but more than playing it, it's kind of like the story behind it. Then comics, all of those are fiction stories at the end of the day. So I'm a passionate storyteller, writer, not fiction writer anymore. Like running a business is more like writing financial stuff and pitch decks and documentation for engineers and stuff like that, rather than writing fiction. But I still have that version of me that I would like to go back to at some point, just be fully committed to writing. I love that part of my life, like when I was in university, in college. But so that's more about my hobby part, but I can talk more about like my background.
Well, we'll talk about publishing in a second, but I guess, even with all of these different kind of facets of writing, of those how-to guides, and there's a journey and a story that you still need to take people through in order to get them to do or to understand something that you're trying to convey. So there's still storytelling in all of that activity, but just probably not fiction. So Galo, how do you think the publishing industry kind of has evolved in recent years? We've seen quite a bit of change, I guess, over the last few years, especially with the rise of these digital platforms, and self-publishing is going through a huge boom. How do you see things? How do you see things have evolved?
So there are many things that have changed, right? Like if we take as a starting point what traditional publishing is. Right. Since the early 2000s, we have seen the rise of self-publishing platforms, because now we have internet, and because we have internet, we can reach more people that you could not do easily before. before internet. That's why the whole book publishing actually exists. Like, you needed a publisher that gets your stuff published and then distributed worldwide by boats or planes, taking the actual physical book somewhere else. But with internet, you can reach way more people, way faster, and nowadays even in different languages. I think, okay, that's a little bit dramatic. The whole change. But lately, what has changed has been the use and rise of AI. There are different ways at the end of the day of using it. And some writers complain, hey, we should not use AI and whatever, because it is not real literature, and you have to agree with that too. I see AI as a tool to help you as a writer, not to do the stuff for yourself, right? So I don't agree on using AI to create your book or stories, but it doesn't matter what I agree. It matters what works for you as a writer at the end of the day. It's the reader who will judge you if it's good or bad. Maybe you just wrote a masterpiece using AI, it doesn't matter. There are startups. I actually know 2 friends who created a startup and half of the code was written with AI. So who we are to judge them? They did it. They did the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but my personal opinion is that AI is a tool. So you can use it for, I don't know, like improve some, spelling mistakes, or try to get some ideas of how to connect one part to the another one. For example, I use it myself sometimes just to have some ideas of writing problems for my writing challenges. I don't use AI to create the writing challenges, but I use it to get ideas. Right?
Yeah.
So I think everyone can use it differently. But the creative part, I think a person can get very connected with a book, with a story, when there's someone's imagination behind it. And this is the one thing that AI will never replace. Like, it can be great at storytelling, but at the end of the day, it was written by a computer. You are like, okay, this is not real. Like, fiction itself is not real. And then you have fiction written by something that is not even real. So, So I believe this is the main trend, or what has been changing lately in the last 1 year or 2. And before that, just tiny bit before that, maybe in the last 10 years, it has been more like serialized fiction. Well, serialized fiction is not something that is entirely new to the 2000s, because it existed before in newspaper, when some authors were creating comic strips, and they were just publishing a mini story that will continue next Sunday or something like that. So it's not like the concept is not new, but the way you do it, it is new. You can publish an entire chapter, like every 2 days, every week, every Friday, and have people engaged. And because you have this reach out, and you can reach thousands or millions of people at the same time, and they get an instant notification in their phone, that dynamic of, like real-time things happening immediately, it changes everything, because you, as an author, you can get instant feedback, instant interest from other people. You can also grasp if they are really into it or not. You have people complaining because you are delayed by 1 hour. It's like, hey, you haven't published yet. Where's your chapter? So I think this really is the thing that has changed, and therefore the feedback you get from them. Because back in the day, when you have a book and you published it, and then I bought it in Philippines, you, as the author, you don't know who bought that book. You don't know if he was bought by a guy or a girl, if he was a child, or if it was like a grown man, or what kind of background or interest that person has. It's kind of like, okay, it's just a number in the books, like, no pun intended. Like, just a number. It's like a sale. But now you're interacting with real people. So I think this is the beauty of these kind of communities and platforms at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think as you say, like, there's real kind of accessibility to publishing, but there's also now new ways of publishing. And I really like that the idea of almost having that It's like what Netflix have gone back to, isn't it? It's now, instead of releasing a full series of, you know, a series in one go, they will, if it's things like Bridgerton or The Witcher, they now split them up so that you have to come back, because they were finding that actually people would kind of binge watch a series and then move on, whereas being able, by splitting that up, going back to the old way of doing a television series of each week you have something new that comes out, it retains users more. So I guess that's the same kind of effect for readers, and like authors maintaining that relationship with readers is actually this kind of drip feed of, you know, chapters being released, or, you know, ways of consuming.
And it's a valuable strategy, and everyone can use it. You know, you can even have your own book already finished, and you can still publish chapter by chapter if you want. You know, like every Sunday, because that lapse of time when your story is ongoing, it gives you, it keeps the people more interested in longer terms. Kind of like they are on the same boat with you for this amount of time because you're still publishing. And then you still have the information, your feedback to adjust things in case you want to adjust things. You cannot do that with Netflix series because it's already produced. Maybe they can actually delete any scene, you know, post-production if they see, okay, this is not going well. But as a writer, especially as an emerging writer, where the only place you're publishing is a self-publishing platform online, you can actually adjust things in case you think, okay, this actually didn't work, and then in the next chapter you adjust it. But I think like the biggest gain of this strategy is to get people involved for the longer term. You know, especially if you have a good marketing campaign on your back. And that leads me to another topic, but maybe that's one of your questions later on, which is marketing.
If not, we'll come back to it. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I just want to kind of come back to Inkspired then, and what kind of initiated the you know, what essentially created Inkspired. Like, what was the problem that you had identified that you are helping to solve?
Of course. So the reason why I started Inkspired was because of my book, which I wrote because I watched this movie of Lord of the Rings. So that's basically it. So I did identify a lot of problems with myself, and a lot of problems with the whole publishing process. I think like the first thing, you know, when you are an emerging writer, you're a nobody, basically, just someone who opened Microsoft Word back in the day and start writing once upon a time, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, you have 1,000 pages and you're like, oh, wow, I wrote a lot. But nobody ever read it, right? So you think you wrote a masterpiece because maybe in your head, you were imagining a movie, which would be a masterpiece or not. But then what you actually wrote, especially if it's your first book, is not that great. And then you just get very into, no, I don't want to show it to anybody until it's finished, And that's a big assumption. Like, not because it's finished, it means like someone will finish the book. And this was the first discovery that I made. You know, I wrote 1,000 pages, basically like 36 chapters. I can't remember even. And people were not getting past through the second one. So it's like, but in chapter 72, this happens. It's amazing. It's like, dude, I cannot even read further, chapter 2, and you want me to get into the 72. So that was a first, let's say, mind-blowing discovery. Like, okay, maybe I'm not great as a writer, or maybe I could be great. I just needed a little bit of editing, you know? So what happens is that on the traditional publishing process, you normally will go to a publishing house or an editor or whatever, you know, to get published. And then they would get your manuscript. And in the ideal world, they will read this and they say, oh, this has potential, you know, we're getting to publish, we are going to copy edit it and make some corrections and distribute it worldwide. But the reality is I barely got a response from anyone because I understand, like they get manuscripts all the time. They just have as many people, right, to check this. And at the end of the day, they have to select the ones that have bigger potential because it's a numbers game. They have to pay the editors, they have to pay the distribution, the printing. That's the second problem that I thought. Like, you know, emerging writers like me who didn't have any background in writing, I was not known by anybody, we don't have opportunities to get published just because sometimes they don't know us, right? We don't have a friend working there, or maybe they just saw the manuscript, maybe they read, that's the name, that's the title of the book, that's the name of the author, I read 2 paragraphs, yeah, I don't think I will continue. So this lack of opportunities for emerging writers is something that struggles me. It's like, okay, you know, like maybe I need to go back writing and just improve my story. But at the end of the day, not even a response, not even a message, hey, not now, maybe later, or whatever. Nothing, no feedback at all. So I might have skipped, but my actual professional background is I'm a software engineer and a designer. And so in that moment of time, I was just doing just that, coding and designing stuff for clients who wanted their apps and websites. So then I said, you know what? I'm going to make a website for my own book. And then I don't care.
Absolutely.
So yeah, why not? And if nobody wants to get me published, I will publish myself. So I didn't want to use WordPress, which was trending and still great. It's still a tool out there. I didn't want to use WordPress. I just wanted to make like my own website, you know, like maybe something basic, but still published by chapters. I don't know. I didn't know who was going to read me, you know, publish chapter by chapter on my own website, and then have some information of the readers and being able to connect with them through comments and so on. Basically, the very foundation of Inkspired. So I had this idea for a long time until I decided, you know what, this is the right time to do it. I published my book, and then I didn't get any readers. And I was like, okay, I ended up with a website, and then I got 1 like or 1 reader after 10 days and 3 readers a month. But you know, then I started doing some tweaks, and I started discovering that this problem that I had was not only a problem, like a personal problem. It was a problem that other authors were also facing. I made some tweaks. I started getting a few more readers and a few other friends who were writers themselves. Sometimes they were already published, and some of them were just like me. They saw something there and they said, you know what, I also want that for my book because I'm having the same problems, the same challenges. I have no opportunities of getting published. So be it. That's how basically the very first version of Inkspired was born. Just creating a website for people just to publish your books. Then they started getting some readers. They got more readers than me. And I was like, oh, I created this for myself. Other people are getting more readers. It's like, they're not that great.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's where a lot of these ideas kind of come from is actually by having been through that experience yourself, is being able to identify the problems that authors are facing and you know, with your experience professionally, that actually you were able to solve that problem. Are there any other kind of challenges that you see happening today? Because obviously the platform has kind of grown. There's kind of this community element as well with Inkspired. But are there any other kind of challenges that you see authors facing that you've kind of built into the platform along the way?
Yeah, well, I have seen quite a lot through the author's journey. It's not only about. I think like the challenge here is not only about writing. You know, as an author, you tend to think writing is the craft, is the thing you have to do 100%. And then you finish writing, you click on a button, publish, or you just close Microsoft Word and hit save and you say, hey, I'm done. And then the whole work is done. That would be amazing. No? But the reality is the biggest challenge post-writing, and let's say post-publishing, that every author faces is the marketing side. You know, getting into other people's bookshelves or, you know, screens, be read, grow an audience, grow a community, you know, and then selling. But selling is a consequence of having readers, right? You can have a reader and that reader buys, but you cannot have buyers. Nobody's reading. So I think like that's the main challenge after you publish, the distribution and then the marketing, like how you market yourself. So what I have seen successful emerging writers doing is to use this kind of platforms, like self-publishing platforms, as part of a strategy to grow an audience. But they don't stick to one. They, instead of going horizontally and have like as many platforms, they have a strategy vertical, which means I have a blog, a website, right? And then I'm published in these self-publishing platforms. But I also get publishers, because you want readers to jump, like from one stage to another one. Get the free content here, get the paid content here, like just move or vertical. The thing is that most of the writers don't think about this, how they're going to get distributed. And some of them make the assumption that that once they're published anywhere, like even with a traditional publisher or with a self-publishing platform, they're going to get famous and have instant sales, which is not true. So I would say challenge number 2, post-publishing is the marketing side, which leads to distribution, leads to sales at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I really like that kind of, as you've highlighted, not just like being everywhere all at once, but actually, using kind of different methods to kind of attract and build that audience and to drive them through that process. I think that's really interesting, and actually you don't hear an awful lot. You hear a lot about, if you want to sell your book, you want to be on social media, you want to be on all these platforms, and but actually, this is also giving them a focal point. It's giving them somewhere where you can give them a little bit of that free value and drive them further down that sales funnel, I guess. So that's really interesting. And in terms of Inkspired then, and its role in this process, what does it do then to support authors exactly? Like, I just want to be really explicit about what it does.
Yeah, of course. So we're a self-publishing platform, as we have mentioned before, and it's free. It's free to use. That's freemium. So you have a free version and a paid version. But let's just stick with the free version because you can just get started today. So what it does? First, it gives you the tools for the first part of your process, which is writing, and many tools, not only for an editor where you can start writing because you can just use Word or Google Docs for that. But it's also about how you create other assets and associated with your story. For example, if you have pictures of your characters, or you want to create a wiki page for the places of the world and the setting of the universe you're writing about. So all of these tools, it also gives you metrics, how much progress are you making, lets you organize the story. So that's one part of it, like the writing environment, let's say, the creation part. You can also create not only web novels, graphic novels, microfictions, and soon, hopefully, audio dramas as well, because we're a storytelling platform. This is the concept of storytelling rather than just writing. But I would say like books and stories are the most popular format by far, right? At least on Inkspired. So that's it. Give you the tools to create. We give you some prompts, ideas. So we want to just, keep you there engaged to try to create the best content you can. And even some tools to do like a spell checker and things like this, right? Like everything included. I think like the beauty of it is like everything is like integrated. Okay. But then once you finish your story, or at least the first chapter, right? That's the minimum you require. Finish up a chapter. That's the minimum required. You upload a picture of it, like the cover picture of the book, the format, and then you hit publish. The other tools we give you, it's like community. And that's not a tool. That's actually something that is intangible. And it's, it has a lot of value. Because once you publish, you are exposed to a community of readers already there. And depending on the genre of your book, the category, subcategory, and all the metadata that you share with your book, you get to be discovered by the audience you want, right? So it's kind of like the opposite when you are, I mean, not, I wouldn't say the opposite, but when you're in a bookstore and then you have the books everywhere, and then you have a shelf and maybe it says romance, but that's it. It's like, and then you have like a whole different books. Then you have the best authors always in front, right there, and then the emerging ones at the bottom, like hidden in the corner, in the dark corner. So we give all the authors the same chance to be distributed in our community, the exposure. There is a layer of content curation that we will talk maybe later about it. But at the end of the day, the algorithm tries to help you to get discovered. So that's one part. It doesn't do all the job for you, gotta say, because as we were talking before, the marketing is part of the writer's job. But the platform itself tries to do some marketing for you within the platform. Okay? So that's the second part, the audience growth. And then let's say you actually get readers from that. So the other part is like the interactions, how you can interact with those readers. You know, like now you know all the information, the demographics of the people who are reading you, the age group, if they are women, men, or any other gender, anything. So you have data. Okay, these people are reading me. This chapter is more light than these other chapters. People are commenting a lot about this line in chapter 3 because I wrote about this. So it gives you a lot of information. And some people might use this kind of platforms as a sandbox, as a place where they can just experiment and see what tracks. That's also a strategy. Depends on the author. That's the whole freedom about it. Something you cannot do on traditional publishing. And then I would say past audience growth, past the tools for interaction, then I think one of the major things is to go beyond that across languages and across even formats of your story. You know, you are publishing in Spanish, but then you get discovered by people who speak Turkish, you know, and then you have other opportunities. Or maybe your story isn't great for being a book, but it might be great if it becomes a graphic novel. So for this part is where AI comes, right? As you see, AI is not involved in Inkspired writing a book for you. Okay, it gives you some tools so you can improve the quality of it, but it goes more into the publishing distribution side, you know, help you become not only a writer but a creator at the end of the day. So that's how we are addressing the issues of getting readers, getting a little bit of distribution.
Yeah, all of that's really fascinating, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying at the beginning about like the trends of technology and AI and how that's kind of a really big thing at the moment. And as I see AI kind of across all of my kind of different, you know, the different hats that I wear, is that actually AI is kind of just enhancing processes so that humans don't have to spend so much time doing the process, you know. So it doesn't have to infiltrate the creative process necessarily, as you say, but now you can do it, you know, use and leverage those types of tools to be able to maximize your impact, to, you know, increase your audience and even to understand your audience more. As you said with the data, like that's a huge thing, you know, readers understanding who are they marketing to.
Totally. And just making a brief mention about AI again. For instance, one of the things it does is to also help you find gaps or mistakes in the narrative. For example, I describe Erica as having blue eyes, but then in chapter 77, I just say she has brown eyes. That's kind of like a mismatch of what you said before. And maybe an editor spots it, maybe he doesn't, right? But the editor can, you must have always an editor, right? So that's an important job. But the editor should focus on other things, not about the color of the eyes of Erica, you know? So that's something that increases the quality of your story right away, right off the bat before publishing. It's a tool, as I said. It's not writing for you. It's just a tool to improve the quality.
Yeah. No, I find the AI stuff so fascinating. But in terms of what makes Inkspired different to to any other kind of self-publishing platforms. I guess to me, and you can, I'm kind of reading this back to you. What makes Inkspired different is the fact that you can have these multiple different ways of publishing, and that it really allows you to build kind of that entry point for readers to kind of start a journey with you and to take them on a journey. But is there anything else that we're missing here?
I think like the main advantage of the main differentiator of Inkspired is like how integrated all the solutions are, because you have technology meets community, like across all the creation process and publishing and distribution, and going global, but not global because someone in Philippines can read you, but also become localized in all of these languages. Go basically without borders. But it's still a lot of work for the writer. The tools are there. That's the important part. And we, as a platform, we try to do the best we can to help you be successful, because our mission at the end of the day is to support the next bestseller. Everyone wants to be a bestseller, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be a bestseller. I've not quite written a book yet, but I'd love to be a bestseller. And so is kind of the ideal persona of like a customer for you, of an author for you, is it kind of the more emerging type, or do you still see that the authors who have perhaps published a few books could still benefit from a platform like this?
I gotta say, we have both. We do have emerging writers, maybe 60% of them are. And then we have 40% which are already established authors. When I say established authors, are authors that already had an audience before joining Inkspired, a readership, a fan base, and they publish in some other places, maybe with a traditional publisher or maybe in another self-publishing platforms or Amazon. So they already have some track record and some books. So it's for all of those kind of authors. We don't have successful authors like Rowling, for example, on Inkspired. That would be really awesome. But maybe for that stage, that's other stage. So for now, we're focusing
that's like stardom.
and rather than the super bestsellers that already are bestsellers, because we want to discover the bestsellers and support them rather than having already bestsellers. So those
absolutely. So as you say, I think there are many authors at many different stages, kind of particularly in those early days, but there are a lot of authors that might benefit from this, particularly just going back on the community piece again, is that I guess I have a question. I was about to state it, but actually the question is how then does it foster like that interaction between authors and readers? Like, is it discussion forums? Is it how does that bit work?
I mean, I got see it in ways. I can mention a few. First, let's start with the easiest one. So Inkspired works like a social network. Okay, so that's what everyone is familiar with. So then you have content, and then you hit likes, and leave some comments, send some messages, and put some reviews, and everything is social. That's kind of like the part that everyone understands, because we're living in this world of social media. But we do have other systems in place within the social network. I would say even a network inside a network. So we have beta readers, for example. Beta readers, are you familiar with the concept what a beta reader is?
Yeah, beta reader process, aren't they?
So beta readers are an important pillar in what we do. So beta readers, they get chapters, and they can read and provide some constructive feedback, right? And this is a network that people have to opt in, and they can also opt out on Inkspired. And then authors can request beta readers for their chapters, not for the whole story, but for the chapter. And they say, hey, I want some feedback on, I don't know, how I'm describing the characters. I want some feedback on, I don't know, the plot or whatever is going on in this chapter. and you can get up to 12 beta readers, because this will be distributed to all the beta readers in the network in the language you're writing, but you can get up to 12 persons giving you feedback. And that will be closed within a day or 2 days if something happens. So it's kind of like instant feedback. And this is linked with some other things we have in our community, like our loyalty program. A loyalty program is something that rewards you for doing things. You know, on the case of Inkspired, we give coins. We call them credits. And being a bit of better reader and helping an author gives you a lot of coins. So there's a lot of motivational factor there. You know, the authors want better readers and they want genuine feedback, and the better readers themselves are being rewarded for doing this, right? So that's kind of like something that keeps the community going, because we have this system in all languages, basically, you know, in Spanish, in English, in Portuguese, in Turkish, in German, and it works. We also have a Discord server like everyone does, and people can discuss in discussion forums, in channels, and stuff like that. But I would say a part of the social network part is just these groups, these networks, like the beta readers, or the Discord, where it's happening in discussions there, in the forums, is what keeps the community really engaged and ongoing. Because it also helps you in another ways, finding, for example, potential plagiarism and stuff like that. You know, when you have an active community, things become, you acquire some problems with that growth, but then also you have a lot of people who genuinely care about a nice community.
I think we should address the marketing question of, you know, marketing, as you said, is a big hurdle for a lot of authors. So in terms of that, how does Inkspired help to serve that need?
Okay. So the algorithm of Inkspired, the way we recommend the stories, obviously tries to maximize opportunities for the author, right? I don't know if you're writing about vampires and romance and all of that kind of stuff. We want you to get readers who read that kind of stuff, right? And maximize that opportunity for you with readers who sticks. But that doesn't mean that the reader will like what you're writing. I don't know. Or maybe you stop writing and the reader are like, well, I mean, it's only 5 chapters and it's done. But we have other services within the platform that helps you to get exposed in other ways. Let's say in a more massificated way, right? We have some kind of promotional packages that include several things. You know, be featured in the newsletter, for example. And this newsletter is sent to 1.5 million people, so it's not too bad to be included in the newsletter. Are you there? I see you're frozen in the screen.
There was just a bit of delay there for me. I can hear you're back now. So I just want to, I think when it comes to kind of leveraging that community for, you know, those additional promotional opportunities, as you said, with a newsletter, with, you know, addressing, you know, millions of readers, is an awesome opportunity that authors can really, you know, take control of. But I think when it comes to kind of, I guess, the royalties, or, you know, is there a way for authors to earn money through the platform, or is it just simply publish and then build a revenue stream that way? How does that work?
No, Inkspired also is a marketplace. So you can publish free content or paid content, you know, and you can sell it in different ways. You can sell it, you know, you just put a price tag, you know, one-off sale, like £10, $10. Or you can sell by chapter, you know, micropayments. This is very popular in Asian countries like Korea. You buy chapters, micropayments of 99 cents or 50 cents. You just keep on going. You can also make crowdfundings within the platform, or even have your own membership, you know, where people subscribe to you. Let's say that you, Erica, you have like, I don't know, 10 books. And you just can create a membership and people subscribe to you, I don't know, for £10 a month. and they have access to all your books, you know. So it depends on your strategy. It depends on how you want to do it. So it's flexible, which is, you know, caring about the VAT, the taxes, and all that kind of not nice stuff. And then you just get the money in your bank account at the end of the day. So Inkspired only charges a commission per sale, by the way. So we don't charge anything for doing this, but if you make a sale, we have a small commission. So, which is way lower than the standard market or Amazon or something like that. It's very good. So yeah, we don't have we are not an e-commerce website, so we don't sell merchandising. That might change in the future. Maybe not. Maybe yes. I don't know. But for now,
maybe we'll see.
we're focused on empowering the authors to do content creation and ways to monetize that content.
Great stuff. We're slowly running out of time, actually, Galo. So I guess for authors who are interested in getting involved with Inkspired and the community, there's obviously the freemium version, but are there any other things that they might be able to get involved with? Sorry, so I guess for authors listening, they might be considering, you know, trying out the freemium version of Inkspired, but are there other things that they can get involved with within the Inkspired community, or maybe, you know, a premium version?
Well, as I was saying, you can just get involved on Inkspired for free just today. I think like getting started is always the best thing you can do for everything in life. Just get started, even for your own book, write the first sentence. But then if you find any value on your publishing strategy, on the things that we offer on premium, for example, I think it does a lot of work for you in content creation and publishing and selling. So that's a good way to get involved. Otherwise, you can just join our community, you know, not only on the website, but on our Discord server, which is free. You can just go there and start talking to people from many countries, get some ideas, get some help, you know, and just be part of the community like that. But yes, like once you sign up on the platform, you're already on our newsletters and social media. And if you start publishing, your content will start appearing in front of everybody, which could be a good thing, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And just lastly, I like to finish off, and I guess maybe you've already said it in that last question, but, you know, is there one piece of advice that you would have for aspiring authors who are, you know, going through maybe the beginning stages of writing? Do you have a piece of advice for them?
Well, I think, I briefly mentioned it, but getting started is the best advice. Many, like, I've been, how do you say, like, guilty of this. You know, sometimes you just think about many things and you just don't get stuff done. Many ideas, what if not, maybe I should do it, maybe I will do it at the end of the summer, maybe next year, maybe in 5 years, and you never do it. So getting started is the best thing. Sometimes it helps not knowing where you are going. You know, many books start like this. You just open the editor and start writing the first line. And then it just evolves and goes with the flow You know, that kind of activity and then consistency, building a habit, I think it's the best part. And it's very enjoyable once you are on the zone. But it might be hard at the beginning. But just opening any editor is free, fast, and you can do it now. Actually, do it now after this.
Do it now. Yeah. Well, Galo, thank you so much for today. It's been great to chat to you. And I guess for me, it's really opened up my eyes to the fact that publishing doesn't have to be, I publish a book, I try and sell it. And actually, you can really build on that process and build a community, tap into, you know, communities of readers like Inkspired, and, you know, a community of authors as well, like Inkspired, and all those great resources and tools that your platform is doing, and, you know, build a career, maybe slowly, but actually, you know, having these options is a wonderful thing for authors. So thank you so much for sharing that. For anyone who is listening, if you would like to hear more from experts in marketing, publishing, whatever piece it is that you're struggling with right now, then make sure to subscribe to the Book Tribe podcast channel, or you can join the Book Tribe author community to connect with our network of author service partners and make connections with other authors, or likewise join Inkspired. There's a lot going on there as well. But in the meantime, just keep on writing. And Galo, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Erika, for hosting me today.